Yesterday we dealt with the chief of all police commissioners, a woman called Emily Spurrell, saying that the British flags, the Union Jack and the St George's Cross, were signs of tools of division and hatred and should be discouraged. More police wokery, the kind of police wokery that I think is ruining policing in this country and infuriating the people of this country. Well, check this one out. The National Police Chiefs Council, the NPCC, is telling police officers when they're dealing with prostitutes to call prostitutes, refer to prostitutes, not as streetwalkers, ladies of the night, good time girls, sex for sale girls, none of that, no. The National Police Chiefs Council wants to call, it tells coppers to call prostitutes sexual entrepreneurs. There's only one person to talk to about this, a man who dates back to when policing in this country was sensible and not consumed by wokery. That is former Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley. Hello, Peter, your thoughts?
Good afternoon. Well, I have some breaking news for you. OK, the police have also come up with some new phraseology today. As of today, drug dealers must be referred to as narcotics industrialists.
Exactly.
OK, people found in possession of a knife must be called bladed brokers, OK, to reflect the fact that they may be involved in some other kind of industry.
Yeah.
And people who commit fraud, and will, of course, whether that be online, ripping people off, the elderly, the vulnerable, and all that kind of stuff, they must be called alternative agents, because they do business in a different way.
I came up with a couple in my monologue. They should call muggers, wallet remover venture capitalists.
Very good.
Rapists, advance grope speculators, and so on and so forth. I mean, look, they're bad guys. You're coppers. Just go out and catch them. I don't want you to show respect to people who don't deserve respect. What is going on?
Well, I'll add a little bit of fairness to this discussion, which is unlike me.
Yeah, go on.
What's happened is an all-party parliamentary group in Parliament has said that sex work comes in many different shapes and forms, and that some people in the sex industry are actually being exploited rather than being willing participants. Okay. So the police need to be on notice that sometimes people have got their arms up their back, so to speak, which is, of course, as old as prostitution itself, because, of course, pimps have been very exploitative in the past. I think really what's irritating the parliamentarians, though, is that arrest figures for prostitution and for controlling prostitutes have absolutely tanked. Yeah. They've hit the floor. Yeah. They're not nicking anybody for it. And they're upset about that. And I think the reason is because the police will tell you we've got more pressing matters on our hands, to be perfectly honest with you.
But what the all-party parliamentary group are saying, that one of the problems here, the reason perhaps that prostitution is not being dealt with properly, is that this terminology like sexual entrepreneurs or even sex workers, that used to be the old one, is normalising prostitution, not only generally but in the minds of coppers, that they don't see sex workers or sexual entrepreneurs as criminals, which often they can be.
Yeah, and it goes on actually at some length to talk about the relationship that some police officers might have with what you and I might still call sex workers rather than sexual entrepreneurs. It's the oldest industry. I'm sure certain police officers do avail them of ladies of the night, etc., whatever they need to be called. But I do think that at the heart of it, the irritation from the parliamentarians is that the police are not prioritising sex work, the sex industry, and consequently the arrest figures have fallen through the floor.
But this also crystallises what we've been talking about for days, particularly yesterday with that crime commissioner, the chief of all crime commissioners, talking about the scourge of tools of hate, our flags, and now sexual entrepreneurs. Wokery, the rising tide of wokery in our police forces is a scourge. It's a problem because it sort of turns coppers into kind of social workers who don't... I think, in a way, I don't mean to be too pugilistic about this, but coppers should be at war with criminals, shouldn't they?
Undoubtedly. And this is what has happened, though, and it dates back 20 years or more, really. Sir Ian Blair was the star when he was Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police. Oxford educated, don't you know? Turned the Met from a police force into a police service. But it was more than just the title that changed. They started getting themselves involved in more and more things that hadn't been police's business before that. And by that, with some justification, domestic violence, sexual crimes that happen behind closed doors, but they actually saw themselves moving from a crime-fighting force into a kind of social service. So with everything that has swung left-wing ever since 1997, really, the pendulum has gone so far to the left now that the public are crying out for the policing that they want. And what do they want in terms of policing? Coppers that are visible, police officers that they know, and then they can be contactable, and then guess what will happen? They'll be trusted. And when they see those police officers in their homes, on their high streets, in their neighbourhoods, doing what they want them to do, then they'll start to respect them again.
Never mind community relations. Nick the bad guys. That's good community relations. While I've got you, Pete, can we have a quick chat about this? I want to talk about the growing and worrying rise in asylum seeker and migrant crime. This is on the back of yet another disturbing sexual incident. This involves a small boat migrant who his name was Horay Mohammed. He's from Iraq, 27 years old. He followed a 20-year-old woman into Crawley station. He smashed it. She walked into the station. He smashed his way through the barrier and followed her onto the train and then lunged at her and tried to kiss her. Now he's been nicked, and quite rightly so. And that may well not be the worst case we've heard of this, but generally speaking, there's been quite a rise in sex crimes among asylum seekers. The charges from Mail on Sunday did an investigation last year, and out of a total of 708 criminal offences committed by asylum seekers, these included serious offences such as 18 counts of rape, 35 sexual assaults, 27 attacks on emergency workers, and 43 drugs offences. We had only last week, I think it was, there was a woman raped allegedly by an asylum seeker in Bournemouth. I know of a terrible story of the small boat migrant who was Afghanistan in his 20s. He arrived here, was immediately billeted at a hotel in Falkirk in Scotland, walked straight out, found a 15-year-old vulnerable local girl, took her behind a pub and raped her viciously, and got 12 years for this. And when he was done, he screamed, "Well, nobody told me you didn't like rape in this country." That was basically his line. So more and more the worry about sexual crimes, and I guess crimes of violence in particular, committed by asylum seekers, is a problem.
And rest her soul, Rhiannon Sky White.
Oh, poor girl.
Bless her.
Yeah.
There are an increasing number of these people who are coming into the UK illegally. They are illegal immigrants as defined by Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971. Don't listen to the leftist drivel whereby they call them irregular migrants. They are illegal immigrants. If you come to the UK without leave to remain, that act and section makes you an illegal immigrant. End of. Now, the increasing number of these people who are being convicted of all manner of crimes, but as you rightly point out, an increase in crimes of a sexual nature is a deeply worrying thing. This country's first responsibility is to keep its citizens safe. That is enshrined in law. You can find it on the government website. It's not me banging on. And they are manifestly failing to do that. But one small point, if I may, Kev, you imagine being that poor woman on the train. You hear a man forcing his way through the barrier. You get onto the train. This man gets on. He's completely unknown to you. And then he lunges at you. And you know not what is going to come next.
You're so right.
An utterly terrifying experience.
Because you tend to say, well, that's not the worst thing I've heard. But you're right. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Lest we forget, Hanush Kabatu from Epping, you know, who sexually assaulted 2 women there. As you say, the terrible event up in Wolverhampton. More and more of these crimes are sexual, and often when they get to court, these guys, youngish guys from foreign cultures, where they have a different attitude to women, their defences. I didn't realise, you know, that you weren't allowed to grope women. I didn't realise you took rape so seriously here. That's the problem. It's a cultural divide that seems to say to these guys who come here, oh, it's okay to, you know, have a go at the local women. It's a really worrying situation.
Deeply, deeply worrying. But may I also honour the memory of Govinda Johal, a young man standing in a queue in a bank to pay in the earnings from his chicken business, and he gets stabbed to death.
By a guy who's had his asylum seeker application refused. Yeah, I mean, by the way, that situation, that just proves, because he, you know, we're not trying to say all migrants are bad, all asylum seekers are bad. The poor guy you're talking about, he was an asylum seeker, he was a migrant. He came here, set up a successful business, had a wife and 2 kids, was a real credit to the community. We need more of them and less of the guy who murdered him for no reason at all.
And today, another breaking story, if I may, which reached me this morning, yet another man wanted for crimes in Germany came through on a small boat, only after he disappeared into a community was his criminal background discovered, and it was also found out that he was wanted in Germany for a number of offences. The National Crime Agency had to mobilise, find him, get his right identity, because he'd given false particulars, of course. He's now arrested and awaiting deportation. We are importing danger knowingly into this country. It is scandalous, and it is an absolute appalling stain on this government.
Couldn't have put it better myself, unsurprisingly. Peter Bleksley, thank you so much for coming in.